Hello and welcome to Drop In, Drop Out, the weekly podcast where a mix of gamers come together to talk all about video games. And today, we're finally doing the one thing no one ever saw coming, making Jake take a bath. And we're getting wet over how much we love JRPGs. I'm everyone's favorite dumpster boy. And they let me out of my cage, and I can tell you right now that Patrick's somewhere sweating fucking bullets. Joining me on today's show, first up, he's got glasses, but still can't seem to see the deep-seated pain in his wife's eyes anytime he talks about Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Jordan Cognitive Clips.
Incredible. No notes.
Well, that squeaky little laugh you hear in the background is rounding out the cast for the evening. He's bald, he's beautiful, and he is a slightly soiled body pillow of everyone's favorite good girl, Tifa, currently hidden right off camera. It's one half of Jake Dumpin', the homie Jake Twitchin'.
Oh, man, am I glad to be here. Jake Dumpin' reunited at last. We got Cog in here talking about all of our... this is the right trinity of individuals to be talking about this subject. So
Yes,
happy to be here.
There's just enough straight white male bonding taking place to talk about JRPGs. I mean, it's sad but true. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear.
I should have left some crumbs on my collar for this conversation.
Just a little fucking little greasy palms over here. All right, boys. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I'm so excited to be talking about JRPGs. I love them so much, and you love them so much, and I can't wait to discuss it. But before we do that, let's get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. First up, the Boys of Spotlight Games. That's me. We got dirty with some video games news covering Sony being terrible, Microsoft being dumb, and probably some lewd remarks about Mario and his birthday suit. That episode is live now on all streaming platforms. Let me tell you, I am pretty sure we do talk about Mario in the full nude on that episode. I wrote this before that episode, so I don't know. I think I can tell you now that it is. Next up, the only people anyone actually likes here at Dido, that's the girls over at JK Games and Josh. They're finally wrapping up the final chapters of Resident Evil Requiem on one more game, so tune in there. I bet you're going to love it. And finally, Dildo Baldens over here plays video games all the time. When exactly? No one really knows. Rumor on the street, though, is that he has an upcoming playthrough of my favorite game, Bulletstorm. So go check him out. I just fucking sold you that you now have to do that because you can't go back. You can't go back
That's
on
true.
those words, Jake. You can't.
So it was.
That's the rules.
And there's probably an indie game coming out somewhere soon that Cog will be covering, but that game's not out yet. So stay tuned for more. Oh, this is why you can't let me host shows. It gets off rails too soon. Off rails too soon. Me and my overalls coming off here in a bit when we get jumping in. Which,
Of course.
guys, is there any words or anything that you want to discuss before we dive in? We got a meaty show today, and I'm really excited about it. We're talking about JRPGs. Anything that you guys have top of mind before we dive in? Because I'm telling you, once the train's in motion, we ain't stopping until I've creamed my leathers.
That's right. Show on the road for me. I don't want to sidebar.
Jake's audio's gone.
Yeah, I'm ready to go from 0 to cream
Everyone's
as fast as
audio's
we can,
gone.
so.
God damn it.
Kamen's the only one whose audio is gone.
I
Mine's
fucking
good.
hate this so much. Hold on. Let me just
Don't worry.
make sure that we are.
I can monologue easy.
I think I might have found it. Yeah, we're good.
I believe you're good. Take it away, King.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
No one
Fucking
does. That's the beauty of it.
this fucking it's it's the thing with the headphones and how they like to sync up to other things that are happening in real time. I don't know how terrible that opening was in regards to that, but are you guys
We'll get it
ready
in
to do
post.
this? We'll get it in post. It's not a dumpster boy episode if we didn't fuck something up already. All right, well, if you guys are ready, let's do this. On to the show.
On with the show.
On the show. All right. Here at Drop In, Drop Out, we love JRPGs. And if you don't know what a JRPG is, it is a Japanese role-playing game. Some may even go so far as to say we love them just a little too much. Here's the thing about JRPGs. Much like the Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart's opinion regarding what constitutes as hardcore pornography, in the case of Jacob Ellis versus Ohio, 1964, he says, in quote, "I shall not today attempt to further define the kinds of material I understand to be embraced, but I know when I see it. Or as my wife likes to call it, Kamen's anime-ass bullshit. While we may forgive my wife's ignorance of the genre, it does call into question one of the most hotly contested questions to plague the games industry for decades, and that is Mario circumcised? Wait, no, sorry, that was the Spotlight Games episode script. Okay, here are, yes, what is actually a JRPG? And now I will try my hardest to not be reductive like X Plays Morgan Webb. Shout out to Beto Kaiden Origins for those that remember that quote. Go look it up. I will not read it live on air because it is fucking racist. But I do feel like it's worth painting a picture of why the genre seems so hard to nail down. Now, according to the over at the writer for, let's see, what is it? University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, Jeff Johnson, he says, and I quote, "It would be easy and somewhat naive to say that a JRPG is defined solely based on its art style. While again, at first glance, the usual anime art style would seem to confirm a game's JRPG nature, there are other things to see." That being said, I want to open up the floor for both of you today. I want to ask you in 10 words or less, what makes a JRPG to you? I'll start off with you, Jake Twitchin, you beautiful baby boy. 10 words or less. What's a JRPG?
A role-playing game that was developed in Japan.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I kind of love that. Cog, 10 words or less. What's a JRPG to you?
Small start, but then larger than life adventure. Friendship.
Okay, just adding a word on for fun. He just adds a word on for fun. A silly duck in the chat, they got 10 words, and that is anime baddies, word, which right. Also very well could be exactly what a JRPG is. I'm not going to answer that question. Why? Because I don't know, and I don't think we ever will know. JRPG is one of those things that, just like porn, I know it when I see it, but I can't tell you exactly what it is. And as someone who owns a lot of movies and only like one of them actually being hardcore pornography, which, hold on, you ready for this side story?
Yeah, I got a lot
I do
of
have
questions.
one porno. I've got one porno in my collection, and I can't pull it out because it's got nudity on the cover.
That
obviously,
whole wall, only one.
only technically one. I own a bunch of art house films that include penetration.
You got showgirls over there?
I do. But I also have Caligula, The Untold Story, which is, just throwing that out there. If you know, you know. The only porno that I own is an Office parody porno. It's called Not The Office, a porn parody. So I've never watched it before. It just sits on that shelf. So
Save
if anyone
trash
wants
cinema
Leave
next
us not
week.
butter.
yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. So I think we kind of discuss, what a JRPG is, and Cog to Cog's point, it's a small adventure that becomes grand, and one might even say a JRPG always culminates in killing God. To which actually is pretty spot on assessment.
It's not
if I
wrong.
had to say 10 words less, what's a JRPG? I'd say anime ass bullshit, killing God. I did it in 5. You guys are welcome. I want to dive a little deeper though, and I want to get into the meat of like actually what a JRPG is as it starts, right? So JRPGs date back incredibly far into video games, but it goes even farther back than that. Are you ready for this? The origins of the JRPG actually date back to the mid-1970s in the United States of America. The inception, the birth, or as some Final Fantasy fans say, the rebirth, was actually because of Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons made it to Japan, and because of the way that Dungeons and Dragons is structured from the way that you proceed through an adventure, it worked well with PCs. Now those PCs started to expand, and they started to grow. And now as this starts to work out, you get things like Dragon and Princess. And then you get a game that everyone here should know, Ultima. Now, Ultima isn't technically the birthplace. It's more so of the conception or the idea of. It wouldn't be until 1986 where the genre would find its forever footing with a little-known game named, Jake?
Dragon Quest?
Dragon Quest, thank you. According to creator Yuji Horii, He says, at the time I first made Dragon Quest, computer and video game RPGs were still very much in the realm of hardcore fans and not very accessible to other players. So I decided to create a system that was easy to understand and emotionally involving, and then place my story within that framework. And as we all know, in the following year, we would get what is arguably the biggest name in JRPG's history, and that game is Cog.
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy. And with the birthplace of the JRPG, I want to go ahead and get really deep into this episode, and I want to talk about your history with the JRPG. Now, Cog, I'm going to start with you, and I really want to know a little bit more about what your history with JRPGs is, where it started, why you love them, and how you got to be such a big fan of this genre.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of us of our age, my first... I guess if we want to split hairs, I don't know what direction you want me to go with here. I did play Pokemon, of course, like Pokemon Blue, all that. But if we want to talk about like the more expansive, like this is definitely, no questions asked, a JRPG. It was actually Final Fantasy X for me. So we did not have a PlayStation 1 growing up, just like N64 and like Nintendo consoles. And so PlayStation 2 comes around, 9/11 happens, and then not long after that, we have Final Fantasy X. And I remember playing the demo and just thinking like, I had gotten a couple years of Pokemon out of my system, and then I was at that age where I was like too cool for it, or I thought I was. I'm not. And so I was like, I played the demo for Final Fantasy X, and I was like, random encounters? What is this, Pokemon? This is stupid. And then I played some more of it, and I was like, actually, no, this is fantastic. Really, really love that story. That's still one of the only... I've only beaten a handful of Final Fantasy games to credits, and that was the first one of it, and it's still near and dear for me. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what the next one would have been for me, but I did kind of dabble in some Final Fantasies here and there. Like they were re-releasing some of the older games on Game Boy Advance after a few years. And I was getting into like just RPGs in general. I remember checking out like the Deus Ex games in the early 2000s as well, which are completely different, not JRPGs. But what I really, really love about the games is like, even if they do get larger than life, even if they are, killing God at the end of it, so to speak, they still maintain this like really human story, like this really human emotional core to it. I think of like some of my more recent favorites that we've talked about here on the channel of, like Tales of Arise, for example, or Final Fantasy 16, both of which I like love and adore. And like they go to these crazy places as far as, like who you're fighting at the end of the story or, the larger than life stakes and all that. But at the core, though, they are telling these incredibly human stories. They are sometimes drenched in metaphor. Sometimes it's incredibly heavy-handed metaphor. Sometimes it's more veiled, but you can kind of, bring your own experiences to the table and kind of find these connections to it. But that is what really draws you to some of these stories, is just how much humanity there is, even with these like crazy, anime bullshit, as we've been calling it, affectionately calling it. Same with even like, I remember that being my exact thought playing through Scarlet Nexus. I was just like, yeah, this is like just completely off the wall, but at the same time, it's got heart to it. And I think that's one of the key things too, that, I didn't say it in my 10 words, I don't think, but like they have so much heart behind it. And I think that's what really keeps me coming back and seeking out more. And like, we bring up Tales of Arise. I am 1000% buying that game again in a couple months for Switch 2 because I love it that much. And like, I'm not Kamen. I don't have, a 6,000 platinum trophies. I have like 15, and one of them is Tales of Arise because of how much I love it. And I got pretty close for Final Fantasy 16 as well. But those are some of the more recent ones, some of my origins for it. If I think of more that were the in-between, maybe I'll pipe out later. But I think I'll let our bald friend share his experiences too.
Well, fucking Cog stole all mine because he talked about every RPG that's ever been made. That's not fair.
I named like 6.
My first 2 like big ones are Pokemon Blue, which don't doubt yourself. Cognitive Clips, that's your first RPG. Correct. That's a role-playing game as fucking true to form as possible. It is easy to start looking at like Monster Collectors and the Pokemon brand individually as almost its own subgenre that has eclipsed the popularity of like a standard JRPG. But that's a conversation for an hour into this podcast, not right now. My first is Pokemon Blue for sure. And opening up the door for turn-based battle systems, basically. If you had asked me back then, I used to loop Zelda into that, Ocarina of Time, but I don't anymore think that Ocarina of Time is an RPG, which again, that's an hour from now. However, after that, Final Fantasy X is the one that really gets me. And I had dipped my toe into, I have a nasty little fucking secret that I have to tell you guys about my Final Fantasy history. Right after it came out, it had to have been 98 or 99. It had been out for a while. It wasn't 97. It wasn't the year that it came out. I bought Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1 used from an EB Games and played about an hour of it and fucking hated it and returned it for a full refund. Then I was not interested in Final Fantasy 8 or 9, but a friend got into Final Fantasy X, and after he finished Final Fantasy X, I borrowed the game and played all the way through Final Fantasy X. And from there, I was like, I see the correlation. I understand what is similar between the Final Fantasy series and the Pokemon series. These things are clicking into place for me. Let me do my diligence. At that point, I go from there into Kingdom Hearts, which is another very influential one for me. And then I do my backtracking. That's when I start to explore the Final Fantasy 7s, 9s, Chrono Triggers, things of that nature. Going back in time. Dragon Quest monsters. I got some weird ones under my belt. But yeah, my main two, Pokemon Blue and Final Fantasy X, is the origins of RPGs for me.
I love that it was the exact same. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I played Red and Jake played Blue. We both played Blue. We both played 10.
Yeah.
Love that for us.
Yep.
I feel like I'm not too dissimilar to you guys, but before I talked about mine, I do want to just do a quick shout out to those that are currently in chat, 'cause chat's been popping off tonight. We got Coal Mines, we got Eula, we got High Score Weekly, we got The French Dip, we got Control 29, we got Davy James 22, we got apparently Cognitive Clips is both an in-person and out-of-body experience taking place digitally on all storefronts. Cirrus Shard. We also have my wife, Sydney Farty, and a silly duck. So shout out to everyone for being out there today. We're really excited. It's a niche subject to talk about JRPGs. But my JRPG story starts back on the Super Nintendo. And it specifically can be traced to two specific games. One of those being Chrono Trigger. The other being Secret of Mana. It wouldn't be later in life did I realize that one of the games that I watched my uncle play a ton of, but I never got hands-on with, was Final Fantasy VI. The other two games I did. Now, it would be remiss to say that I didn't play the Pokemon games. If I were to say the most formative, wouldn't be Blue or Red, honestly. I would say probably Pokemon Yellow would actually be where I feel like I would say that's where I started my Pokemon journey. And it probably was where I most likely could probably date back of like where turn-based games became such a pivotal point in my life. If I flash forward on the PlayStation 2 Final Fantasy X, I remember getting a copy from Blockbuster when you could go and buy games out. They were like, you remember when they would do games and like it would be what was it? They would what was it that they would do? They'd take the games that you'd be renting, and then once they hit a certain life cycle, they just put them up for sale for like cheap. And Final Fantasy X was one of those. And I remember that opening scene in Final Fantasy X and being like, I've never seen anything like this before.
Dude.
You know, it wouldn't be until significantly later in the game that I had this like moment of realization where I was like, are they talking about my dad right now? Do I get to kill my dad in this game?
Can we do a half hour on the opening scene of Final Fantasy X real quick?
Just in
yeah, that it's so good.
I feel like the thing here is like we talk about that when we talk about now. Sure, we can flash forward and we can go through my like love of getting into the Tales of games, or really diving deeper into like the Mana series, or just like enjoying some of these weird ones. And we were talking, and French Dip earlier today had a great. He was going through adding games to his wish list, and one of the games that I brought up was I Am Setsuna, and it's like there's so many deep cut games in there that people have never heard about. But like, I think the thing is I kind of walk away, and I think Final Fantasy X is a perfect example of like what a JRPG is. I think Final Fantasy X is a great place of being like, it is an incredibly emotional story that starts small, goes big. It is so fucking anime. There is definitely some fucking fan service on display. I mean, half the female cast in that game is fan service. And it's just like rooted in, like, I think the history of the series. I think JRPGs, it plays so well to like what the roots of the genre plays into Final Fantasy X. And once you get your greasy, grubby little fingers into one of these games, and you get locked into that rinse and repeat grind cycle of grinding for levels so you could take on the next boss. Like there's something that dopamine drip unlocks, and it's a full blown faucet. What are you guys? Are you fans of grinding in JRPGs? Is that something that you guys like?
Yeah, I generally, yes. I understand that some people go back and forth on it, and it can be divisive. And I think there's a lot of quality of life things that have sort of weeded their way into a lot of games where like they have made the grind easier if you so desire, whether that's just through like accelerating game speed or otherwise. But in general, one of the things that I love about a JRPG, a good JRPG, is you have these different like lanes that you can go down when you boot that game up. It's not a typically linear experience where you are just on rails watching cutscene, doing gameplay, watching cutscene. Like you're watching cutscene and you're doing gameplay, but you're also having these sections where you're doing side quests or you're doing main quests, or you're exclusively grinding, or you're doing your monster arena, or you're just exploring and getting collectibles. And I love being able to kind of decide and dictate what my game is going to look like for this section, because there's some nights where I'm like, oh, I am fucking fried. I am just going to grind levels for an hour and a half and then go to sleep. And then there's nights where I'm like, I need to grind, but I am so dead set on this story that I would rather brute force this boss and keep everything like going with momentum. So yeah, I think grinding has its place in JRPGs.
Yeah, I agree. So, I think one of the things that can kind of make or break it for me these days, at least, is how much I'm like just vibing with the battle system. So another more recent series that I've really loved is the Octopath games, and like that battle system is so good. Like the whole like breaking and boosting and all that. Like, so when it's a game like that really nails down something cool about the battle system, I almost look like Jake said, like sometimes you'll just fire it up for just an hour or two, and all you want to do is grind, and that's all you want to do for that night, and then tackle the story the next day, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm not opposed to the grind. Not at all.
I feel like there's someone like me who is depressed as shit all the time. There's something cathartic about grinding levels, of something that I can like just do some mindless thing that I am essentially completing some sort of goal here. And I think the big thing for me is a good example would be like Dragon Quest VII recently, of just repeatedly killing God over and over and over again, just so that I could like beat the other gods I needed to kill to get other gear to beat the rest of the game.
God 2.
Just doing that ad nauseum. And so like I do now out in the chat, doesn't seem as though, you know, Coal Mines over here says, I hate grinding in games, complete waste of my time, in my opinion, which that's your opinion. And I'm glad you have one. It's called freedom. It's wrong, but it's freedom. I do want to circle back to something that the French Dip said, though. I really appreciate this because I do think that he really nails on the head like what you get from a JRPG that I think is lost in mainstream media. And that is, he says, when all of my friends were only into football video games and video games that were just, quote, shoot guns, I love that JRPGs were talking about emotions, loss, friendship, and overcoming impossible obstacles. And I think that that's such a really prescient point of like that has remained true throughout the history of JRPGs. It is the through line. And it doesn't matter what obstacle you come across. I mean, you, like I said so many times before, kill God in most of these games. And now how you get to that point, or the characters and the people you meet along the way that help you get there, it really is. So that's what I think the big thing is. It's about friendship. It's about the relationships you make and build. But I think that the reason that that aspect works so well in these games that maybe doesn't necessarily hit in others is because of the amount of time that you put and sink into these games. Because these aren't short. JRPGs historically are not a short series of games. I'll go so far as to drop a little fun fact. The longest JRPG of all time, as of right now, is Persona 5 Royal with an outstanding runtime of 130 hours to clear the main story. Here's the thing though, for the completionists out there, there's something even longer. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate has a 100% completion runtime of 840 hours.
No.
So all of that being said is that I do think because these games are so fucking long, you get to flesh out characters where games that only run for, maybe 20 hours, I don't think you have that luxury of playing with that.
Kamen, do you know the similarity, like the common thread between Persona 5 or Persona and Monster Hunter, though?
Please tell me.
Both mid as fuck.
Booted.
I knew it was gonna be.
We're fucking done. We're fucking done.
So what I was gonna, since you said that, we already, as we usually do, we put a little thread in our Discord, #join the Discord, where you can kind of share your thoughts on the episode topic. And our friend Misha the Human, he had put in there that Persona 5 Royal was the first giant JRPG that had him hooked from the beginning to end. And he said, I still remember the feeling of beating it and having to say goodbye to these characters I'd spent 160 plus hours with. It really felt like saying goodbye to real friends because like you're saying, you get to know these characters so well over the course of so many hours. And it's like those emotional beats just really, really land by the time the credits roll.
Jake, tell me your feelings on that moment when, and spoiler if you never played the original Final Fantasy VII, but at this point, fuck off. Tell me how you felt at that moment in time when you lose Aerith in the game.
I mean, it's a crazy moment. I think the JRPG big twist, I still don't think has been outdone by that because it just caught everybody so off guard. Personal moment, I went in spoiled. I knew it from the zeitgeist, so it didn't resonate for me as much as it should have. And I don't want to get into spoilers about Rebirth here though, because that is kind of like a newer game.
Right.
But
yeah, that I have on my list to play this year. So
yeah. But I think it's an interesting one to have like in the zeitgeist. I think that the best way to put this is that my initial reaction to that moment was not as severe as that reaction has become in subsequent playthroughs over the year, and how much of like an impact that death had on the greater Final Fantasy universe has become more and more impactful for me. Just when I think about it happening in Final Fantasy VII, it's not that crazy, but when I think about the spider web of situations that it creates and the reflecting back on it in subsequent games, and I think about like Advent Children in the movie when we get our Aerith moment, how fucking crazy that tugs at my heartstrings. I think it is to date still, even after all these years, the most impactful scene in video games, most important scene in video games. Probably.
I'm going to pivot from Final Fantasy VII specifically because, and someone tells Sirius in the chat that we're no longer talking about Final Fantasy VII. I want to pivot because I don't want to spoil it for him. But the reason I ask you that question, Jake, is because I think the big thing here is like this leans on the time we spend with these characters makes those moments more impactful. Cog, I want to talk to you about Tales of Arise.
yes.
Okay. Now, I'm also a massive Tales of Arise fan. I platinum that game. It is one of my favorite platinums. Just a fantastic JRPG. I want to talk to you about like your feelings about some of the revelations that come from that game, because that's another 70 to 80 hour game. Like some of the late game, we don't have to get into super spoilers, but like tell me about like how you feel about how character development works within a JRPG, and specifically I want to know more about your feelings from Tales of Arise and how that plays into that for you.
Absolutely, because I remember going to first mistake I made here was that I went on Reddit to begin with to talk about something that I liked. But I remember I'm pretty sure it was after roll credits and just trying to gush on the tales of subreddit. Be like, this is like one of the like best written games I've played in a long time. I love these characters; are so great. And then of course the internet response being like, if this is the best you've played, then you haven't played shit. And so okay, cool.
Yeah.
How's my impression? Was that good? But
It was really good.
no, that is one of those games where first of all the relationships between all the characters were just so well done because the story is so long. You don't run into that same issue that you have with some movies or TV shows where it's like, oh, we went from 0 to X relationship status way too quickly. It's like everything that happens in that game just feels so natural, such a natural evolution, because you see these characters like learning and like growing closer together as the story progresses. And but by the time that you're rolling credits, then like you've seen them go through all of it, and where they end up makes so much sense for that story. And one of the things that I really liked about Tales of Rise specifically was not only the characters and the writing and the performances and all that, check, but it was another one where, yes, there were some heavy-handed, quote unquote, like not in a bad way, just like very on the nose, like, yeah, they were enslaved. This is like a slavery rebellion. That's like the first thing, you take control of the character and he's a slave in this world. That's like the first 5 minutes of the game. But beyond that, we have Shion, who is like from the other world kind of thing, like the enslaver race of people, and her whole story and how much that I brought to the table with my experiences with like depression and mental health, of like how much of her story felt like an allegory for that to me, of just like being enshrouded in this darkness that only certain people can really break through, and having to like really struggle to come to terms with and like come through. And like there are so many scenes between the two of these characters that exemplify that. And like this isn't really a spoiler, but like there's one, so the way that it kind of manifests this like this weird thing that it's going on with her that I won't spoil is like she calls it her thorns. So if anybody tries to touch her at all, then like it's almost like a little magical shock, so to speak, that manifests and looks visually like thorns. And there's this incredible scene at one point in the game where like all these thorns just enveloping her, and like one of the other characters just like is grabbing them and just like shoving them to the side, like hurting themselves to get to her, and just like wrap her in their arms just to like reassure her that she's not alone anymore. And it's like that is one of the best scenes of a JRPG in recent years to me. That is like one of the best like metaphorical representations of like breaking through for like a mental health crisis that I can think of. And so all those elements just combined for that story to like, I just love those characters so much. And like when the plot twists do come of like, who's who and what's really going on behind the scenes of the story, like it just, you're so invested in their goals to overcome their captors and to like make the world a better place, that you're just like, I'm just so on board for all these, even if it is batshit anime. I'm like, yeah, awesome. Let's go. Let's go do this crazy thing real quick. I hope I answered your question.
You were, I think the chat drilled it when they said you were over here dripping.
Yeah.
So good for that. I think the big thing though is like, we talk about like we talk about JRPGs, we talk about story, we talk about how they resonate, how just the time of a JRPG allows you the ability to live in the world. But JRPGs are also known for their art style. And one of my favorites, and I think in a lot of this goes to art style itself, is the Dragon Quest series. Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z subsequently, he's gushing, dripping. His drips are all over Dragon Quest and the character designs and things like that. But before I dive too far into what is arguably my favorite JRPG of all time, I do want to do a quick little fun fact about Dragon Quest. Now, Jake, you'll love this one. In the original Dragon Quest 1, there's a stinky little Easter egg where if you name your hero Fart, or at least have Fart as the first 4 letters of the name, you'll get a significant stat bonus in strength and HP. That kind of goofy shit in JRPGs really is, I think, the other part of the soul. And, you know, you may play games like I Am Setsuna, where the whole plot line is that you play as the guardian of Setsuna, a girl you have to take her across the world to sacrifice her so that monsters won't destroy the world, essentially. Mm-hmm. And in worlds like that, where you have such a depressing... You're correct, yes. Pretty much. You have these goofy moments, and I think they relay in that. And I think that's why I love Dragon Quest, specifically Dragon Quest XI, so much. Now, Dragon Quest XI to me is the masterpiece. It is the greatest JRPG of all time. Artistically, the style of it is so fucking beautiful. That Dragon Ball Akira Toriyama art style is so beautiful in that game. It really is sold so well with the cell shading. The soundtrack is also so like, you have moments of melancholy compared next to moments of just glee, and just your interlude music and just the goofiness of the world is so wonderful. And then at the end you kill God, which is, you know, I think the thing. But Dragon Quest XI, one of the things that I love so much about it is that 3/4 of the way through the game, and this is 80 hours into this game, you get a twist that completely shakes up the entire world. One of your major party members dies 80 hours into the game, and then they ask you to finish it without them.
You gotta stop fucking spoiling every good game we talk about.
Sorry. Look, if you didn't know what you're getting into, you know now, okay? So, there you go, little fart. Oops, there's a fart.
Oops, little fart.
Oops, little fart. I think so. Sorry, we're gonna have to cut that in post. Everyone in the chat, ignore what I said. Love that
it's
game.
Not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people at this point, if you haven't played Dragon Quest XI, like, get your shit together. Like, it's been out for long enough. But also, that is one of the big crux of the game, is how that shakes out. There's so much more that comes to it. But I think the thing is you have a game like Dragon Quest, which is so lighthearted. And the series is very lighthearted in how they approach things, and having such a moment like that. And Jake, I know you are also a huge Dragon Quest fan. Is of the Dragon Quest series, are you just like locked in on 11, or are you a 7 fan, or are you an 8 or 9? I mean, do you even go back to the original?
Shoddy history. My first Dragon Quest was, I've told this story, I think on Dido before, but the brief version of it is, I was so obsessed with Final Fantasy X that I was so pumped up for Final Fantasy 12, and there was a demo of Final Fantasy 12 included with the purchase of Dragon Quest 8. It was like a double disc set, and one of the discs was that demo disc. So I bought Dragon Quest 8 so I could play Final Fantasy 12, and I played Final Fantasy 12 and fucking hated it, but dove into to Dragon Quest 8 and fell in love with a series all over again, which Dragon Quest 8 is extremely similar to Dragon Quest 11. Like, Dragon Quest 11 and Dragon Quest 8, despite 9 and 10 also not being very similar, when you get 8 to 11, extremely similar. Very similar, though, both of those games to Final Fantasy X, which was the RPG that kind of got me into this whole thing. Right. Very traditional turn-based games. Right. And Dragon Quest XI is definitely the pinnacle, and I've since gone back and I've enjoyed Dragon Quest 8 in its form on the 3DS. 7, I am still playing through Reimagined right now. I played that game as recent as like 2 days ago. Probably 25 hours into that. I talked about Dragon Quest Dragon Warrior Monsters, and Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, back before it was called Dragon Quest in the United States, were gateway drugs in a post-Pokemon world that I really, really enjoyed. Right. And then since then, I've gone back and I've played Dragon Quest 1 and 3 to check those out as well. Dragon Quest 9 on the DS. Yeah, I'm kind of an easy fucking mark for the Dragon Quest series at this point. But I'm with you on Dragon Quest 11 is the pinnacle. Easily the best and one of the best RPGs of all time.
I got like probably 12, 15 hours into that at some point. Back when I had my Xbox One, I think it was, maybe. It was, what I played was really, really good. I can't remember if you joined the party or not, but I at least got to the part of the game where you're meeting, the circus guy. He's awesome.
Sylvando.
Yeah. Sylvando, yes. I was like,
Sylvando. God, he's so fucking good.
he's awesome.
The voice of Sylvando just hosted the Future Game Show today. I watched it.
Really? Okay.
I didn't realize that.
I'll finally tune into that for a reason. Look, for those in the chat, French tips out here saying this podcast might be the final push to play it. Here's the thing. Yeah, there should be no reason why you should skip 11. I think 7 is very good as well, and I think there's a lot of fun twists and turns, and 7's much more lighthearted, I believe, than 11 is. To the point that it is like whimsical at its finest. Just don't try to get the platinum. That's a fucking nightmare and ruined my love of video games.
I remember that.
I had such a hard time, dude, with Dragon Quest 7 in recommendations, like, because that game came out like about a month ago now at this point, maybe a little bit more. And we talked about it so much, and when it's new and exciting, like, I do want to just like push people towards Dragon Quest. Like, I'm like, listen, if you're fucking interested in this thing, then yes, you should play it because it's good and great and awesome. And I found myself really wanting to be like, yeah, I'm loving my time with this. It's not Dragon Quest 11 though. Like, it is
correct.
You know, it's
this
very
is great
good
for me, but not for you.
Correct. I would love for you to love Dragon Quest 11 so much that you want to play 7 and 8 and like go back in time.
Right.
But like 11 is just so perfect. And what made me think of this was you talking about how like 7 is very like lighthearted, and a lot of the stories are like compartmentalized. Like there's literal islands and concealed storylines that you go to and experience and then leave. And the overarching storyline takes a backseat to these conflicts more often than not. Whereas 11 is a much more traditional storytelling where there is like a big overarching world threat that you and your party are working towards. But not only are you having these individual moments, kind of like those islands that you're doing in Dragon Quest 7, where the routine is very much like go to a town, that town is having an issue, solve that town's issue, it benefits your individual quest, move on to the next town, rinse and repeat. Right. You have not only those like town conflicts that are getting resolved, but they usually relate to one of like our party members. I almost said the number, which is also a spoiler. And it is just like, it is such a perfect balance of traditional and classic RPG sensibilities that in a post Dragon Quest 7 is the new hotness world, Dragon Quest 11 blows it out of the fucking water.
Still does. Still fucking does. I can't stress it enough that if you like turn-based JRPGs, the peak of that is 100% Dragon Quest 11. Like it is, and I think pulls it together. Everything gets pulled together in that game.
Yeah, I apologize for interrupting again, but I want to reinforce your point even further as you say that, because I think what's really interesting about it is that not only is it just like the best JRPG, but it's actually like the best JRPG right this instant to play. And here's what I mean by that. It's like in that cross-generational time frame here where early PS4 games and new PS5 games have very little like visual fidelity or quality of life differences between them. You know, like especially with the timeless art style of Dragon Quest 11, that game could be released in its current form with PS4 graphics as a brand new PlayStation 5 game, and I don't think anybody would fucking complain. Like it is that good and it is that polished and perfect both visually and mechanically. It is such an easy recommendation for if you're not 100% satisfied with what you are playing tonight, stop, download Dragon Quest 11 and thank us in 115 hours.
Correct. One of my favorite things to do is to abbreviate the current version of the game to people who think that I'm just like speaking another language, because it's like Dragon Quest 11 S Definitive Edition, Echoes of an Elusive Age.
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
Which, fun fact, something I learned. So I got the platinum for Dragon Quest 11 Definitive Edition. There's actually another platinum trophy for just the standard version. I might go back and get that one too, because how much I fucking love that. I'll fucking dump another 100 hours into it. But boys, we've been talking quite a bit about turn-based JRPGs. Now, Tales obviously is not turn-based, but the thing is with JRPGs is JRPGs?
We are killing God a lot. I don't know.
Oh my God, guys, we just come up with the greatest thing ever. Peachwag in the chat says, the only Dragon Quest I'm interested in is Kamen dragging his nuts right on this doorstep of for a spanking and a kiss. Hell yeah. There he is.
His bare
the
butt
baby
balls
boys
and
in the
back.
chat. JRPGs are not turn-based solely. And what I mean by that is that this genre has branching paths, much like a lot of JRPGs tend to do. So what I want to go ahead and do, if it's okay with you folks, I just want to just dive a little bit deeper, break open this nut a little bit more, talk a little bit more about some of the things that JRPGs accomplish. Now, obviously, we've talked about your traditional turn-based, focuses on strategic, menu-driven combat. These games will be Dragon Quest or early Final Fantasy are like prime examples. Then we have our ARPG or our action RPGs. This features real-time combat, often with hack and slash elements. Games like this will be Cog's favorite, Tales of, Star Ocean, or Ys. It also would be worth mentioning the Mana series. I would go so far as to say, and we haven't talked about this yet, Visions of Mana, one of the recent Mana game, is an absolutely fucking stellar game. Absolutely fucking stellar game. If you want something that's maybe a little more cleaned up, or you just are like, I don't want to play a game that's older than what, 2 or 3 years, go play Visions of Mana.
I do have a question real quick on
Yes.
this, because I was very interested because, as you can probably imagine, like the art style spoke to me. It was like very colorful, very vibrant, kind of like Tales of Rise was. And I played the demo, and I just remember being floored at how emotionless the characters were. Does that get better? Was that just like a really
just
bad
go play
slice?
the game. Yes, it was a very bad slice. Go play the game. It's
First characters you meet in that game, and arguably your primary. Well, no, it's weird. Yeah, you should play the game, but also
play the game.
I would argue that as new characters get layered in, the newer characters are more interesting.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
And you'll
Because I
start
just
to,
remember-
even though the other ones don't really like clean up their act too much, they are the ones that I cared about the less. Where I started, once I met the fucking like, I don't know, was she like who's the fucking proper ass bunny girl or whatever the fuck? No, it's a chipmunk shorty. She's a chipmunk, I think.
Chipmunk Shorty.
I just remember, like in the demo, the protagonist tells this other character a very shocking piece of information as far as it pertains to their world. Something about like, oh, this people have a bubble. It was like something like very shocking, and the animation was just like, wow, that's great. It was like flat affect. I was like, what the?
Okay, well, hold on. Noah's in the chat. Noah C92 in the chat says, "Oh, you haven't played it yet? Allow Kamen to tell you every character death." I will. I fucking will, Cog. Are you ready? Buckle up, buddy. Let me dive in.
Yeah,
The thing worth noting to you on that point is that game cold opens with they do something that isn't. I don't think the opening of that game is done as elegantly as they planned it on paper, because they do a like cold open prologue where you play as and experience the story of characters that are not actually like paramount to the overall plot. Like they're important, but like there is like I don't know if it's like a time skip or it's like from a different area or something like that. But what you're experiencing in the first hour generally isn't the primary like party members of the game, which is wild.
Okay.
So
yeah,
someone's giving me shit in chat about the fact that I didn't bring up. Excuse me, let me just confirm this real fast. I didn't bring up Dark Cloud or Dark Cloud 2, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm one man. I'm just one man. I'm just one man. So
two
I don't know.
games that didn't bring up that are turn based. Real quick, Golden Sun 1 and 2.
good call.
Incredible.
Good call.
Those aren't turn based.
That they are turn based. I'm saying, but because we're about to move on from turn based, I just wanted to sneak those in real quick because I did think of them after my monologue earlier. So,
I don't feel like as passionately about it, but when Visions of Mana was coming out, I think Visions of Mana is to action RPGs what Dragon Quest XI is to turn-based RPGs a lot, where it's just like this like perfected modern version of that kind of thing. Would you agree, Kamen?
Yes.
I
really,
think it's generally pretty fucking impressive. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
okay.
Indeed. All right. So, like I said, action RPGs, Tales of, Star Oceans, and Ys. Did you guys ever play Ys? Ys Proud Nordics just dropped
Redrops
for PlayStation 5. Redropped, correct. I'm very much looking forward to getting into it later. There's just so many games out right now, and I don't necessarily have the time to sink into another 80+ hour game. But I've fucked with Ys in the past. Specifically, there was an Ys game, I think, on the PlayStation Vita that I was
that
a
the
fan of.
Lacrimosa of Donna?
I think so, yeah.
Lana, like, yeah, I think you're on it.
Because they re-released it on Switch, and I played that for like a solid 15 hours or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt long, but it was
think
fun.
it's worth also pointing out, too, another one, and this one I feel like goes to the wayside, and people don't, because it lived on the Vita, then was ported over, and I think it just kind of went in and out, no one even noticed, was Freedom Wars. Freedom Wars was such a weird, interesting story. I definitely recommend, if you don't play the game, at least go look up what it's about, because it is very interesting. I want to move on to the next subgenre, tactical strategy RPGs. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, fuck off. I know I fucking hate Kingdom Hearts.
I know you do, but one day I will defeat
I've never
you all.
played them.
And
one day
you will
it.
learn. Here's the thing that we haven't talked about. We talked a little bit about it. Friendship. It's bonds, baby. Oh my God. There is nothing like Kingdom Hearts' bonds between Sora and his friends. It is like the most pure of heart. And I know that's so stupid. It's called Kingdom Hearts that you can't just say it's pure of heart and that's why it's good. But I fear that is why it's good. It is so fucking heartwarming. It is so pleasant. It is so jolly. It is such good vibes. It is such, man, it is the cure for depression. I fear. If you've ever felt bad,
can we put an APB out for someone to check in on coal mines? He's just having a hard day today, I think. Or JRPGs is just not his thing. He's just struggling in chat right now, buddy.
Wait,
Kingdom Hearts surviving off the coattails of Disney's IP. Jake, how do you feel about that?
That's how it started, but it's not, because you have no idea what you're talking about. Here's the thing. When the initial idea of Kingdom Hearts came out, it was like, what if Final Fantasy cross Disney? And that's what it was for the first two games. And then the further that you get away from that, the emphasis has been pulling back further and further from Disney and Final Fantasy and focusing more on the OC of like the original characters from Kingdom Hearts. For the better, baby. These motherfuckers are legends
like
in their
Adam
own
Brody?
right too. Adam Brody? I don't know, maybe.
You said it's focusing on the OC, so I didn't know if it was like
Oh, right. Orange County.
Can I just
say whatever you want? I want to
yeah.
fucking sidetrack you so bad after.
So, okay, here's the thing. First and foremost, I just want to point out, I think, Jake, that we should settle in on you do Bulletstorm and I ride shotgun. I will do Kingdom Hearts, you ride shotgun.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
That's the easiest fucking deal I've ever made.
We're sold? Okay. I want to do a quick fun fact about Final Fantasy specifically now that you bring it up again. There are over 100 games in the Final Fantasy series, including spin-off sequels, remakes, etc. Yet, there are only actually 16 numbered games. To which I say, the game series needs to get its shit together. Okay? Okay.
And now, for my favorite segment, I'm going to name as many Final Fantasy games as I can.
Please.
No, I'm just kidding.
Fuck yes. Please do it. Please do it. Please do it, actually. Pad the time.
We would be here for so long.
I do have to sleep at some point tonight.
Kamen, I've been trying to figure out, this is so off base. I don't know if you're going to know the first one. Cog, you can participate too if Kamen needs to phone a friend and then we can go to chat. But I've been trying to figure out, I need a sticker to put on my microphone. That's what everyone does with their Shure SM7B. It's like, look how cool I am. I can put a fucking sticker on this. I don't care about it being permanent. So I wasn't sure what to put on. So I ordered a couple stickers, all JRPG stickers from the internet. And I was wondering if I could show them to the camera and then you could describe to the audio listeners exactly what they are. Are you cool with that?
Well, there's actually only one that you
Which
need
one
to
of
have.
us?
No. Listen, you just go ahead and pay attention to all of these. Here's the first one. Do you know who this is?
Well, the zoom's pretty shit, but
Yeah.
It's blurry.
That's okay. You
No.
should be able to make it out. This is
don't.
Aqua from
Blue-haired.
Kingdom Hearts.
okay, yeah, we'll do. Don't
Blue-haired
fucking know
baddie.
the blue-haired lady.
Now here's
Yeah,
here's the
blue-haired
next one.
baddie.
Do you know who this
Of
is?
course, we all know who Tifa is. She's
Lisa.
the brown-haired baddie.
Okay, so describe this picture.
This is a mini skirt with gloves and boots and stockings, and she's so fucking hot.
Perfect. Okay. Now here's the next one. This is an interesting one. I'm not sure if you'll notice.
That is an ice cream bar with a crown.
Yeah, this
And
is from Kingdom Hearts.
Fucking
This is a
Christ.
sea salt ice cream, of course. And then here's the last one. Can you describe this one in detail for everybody? Raiders, welcome in.
Yeah. Woo, perfect timing. We are here for it. We are.
Tifa, when she's lost some of her clothes.
You know what's so wild to me is that they're like in the book, they're like Tifa's got like 34 triple or quadruple D's and like a 16-inch waist. And it's like, why would you fucking put that in the book? The Final Fantasy book has that. Fucking soul crushing like situation here.
Now, gentlemen,
thanks, Jake, for Gooner alert.
There is only
for all
one.
of the new people.
Yes,
Shout
thank
out to
you.
everyone that
Welcome.
just joined in the raid. Welcome to Drop and Drop Out, where we make complete fools of ourselves because Jake doesn't know how to keep his nuts in his pants.
There is only one sticker for JRPGs that you actually need for your collection, and it is this one from the French Dip Design.
Honestly, I
Slut for
love that
JRPGs.
so much, dude. That is so
Very
good.
good.
Friendship. Where can I get that on a t-shirt? Can I get that on a t-shirt, sir?
When Big Boob Tifa sticker for you.
Okay. So for those who are just joining, we're talking about our love because we fucking love JRPGs, and you're joining us at the perfect time because we're going over the different subgenres of JRPGs. So we're moving on. We're talking about tactical strategy. This involves grid-based movement and tactical planning, such as Fire Emblem, Disgaea, and Tactics Ogre. I do not like tactical strategy RPGs. I just don't like them.
Oh, man.
They've never sat with me. Unicorn Overlord is probably one of the only ones that I even really put too much time into. And people out there are going to flame my ass for not being a Fire Emblem guy, but I just am not. I'm not.
Listen,
just can't do it.
I am a Fire Emblem guy, but I remember still, I can't remember if it was actually on Spotlight or any of our content, but I just remember them announcing Unicorn Overlord, and I was just like, that is the dumbest name I've ever heard. I hate everything about what I'm watching on this screen right now. And then I played the demo, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be a problem. And then it was a problem, and I loved it. The end. It's great.
What is it with tactical RPGs having the worst fucking names of all time? I think of that. I think of Triangle Strategy. It's also so fucking bad.
Dude.
True.
My favorite thing about that is that they keep doing like this whole like, oh, this is Project Triangle Strategy. Play the demo or get this feedback. It's just a placeholder, and then it's like, nope, it's actually
not.
just Triangle Strategy.
Correct. It's a tough pill to swallow when you're looking at the name of that and you're like, it's just like the working title. It's a working title thing. There was, what was the game that was coming out the other day that I just like absolutely lost my shit over, just so mad about because of how bad the name is. Doesn't matter. Let's move on. Next up is Monster Collection / Hunter. Revolves around catching, breeding, and hunting creatures such as Pokemon or Monster Hunter. It being the titles. People get mad about this. People get mad at this. People don't like to admit that Pokemon is a JRPG. But the thing is, Pokemon is a JRPG. You just have to accept it. It is what it is. It's a truth. You don't have to like a single other JRPG. But you can't ignore the fact that Pokemon is indeed a JRPG, which I want to go and say, top selling JRPGs of all time, Pokemon being number one with 480 million copies sold. Final Fantasy coming in at number 2 with 195 million, and number 3, Monster Hunter with 105. I always forget about Monster Hunter people being the absolute freaks. They love that shit. And you know what? Good on them. Good on them.
Yeah.
We forget because they are too busy playing Monster Hunter over and over again to go and fight for the right of their fucking game to be named in these conversations.
I do want to talk briefly because so we talk about Pokemon. We're like, okay, Pokemon, obviously. Are you guys fans, or have you guys ever entertained the idea of playing Monster Hunter Stories, which is another kind of like catch them all, breed them all, depending on which copy you get, fuck them all.
Right.
Maybe new one coming out soon too.
Yeah,
I think it just came out. Maybe. So what do you guys say? Are you proponents where you think that this is bullshit, that Pokemon is not a JRPG, or do you guys stand by this too?
course,
Stand
it's
by
a JRPG. Yeah, it's
Stand
got
by.
everything that you're looking for as far as all the turn-based or obviously turn-based just being one option, but it's there. It's got the party members. It's got the experience points, and you're selecting the moves that you want to keep and which ones to. Yeah, it's a JRPG. It's a JRPG.
Okay, JRPG.
As far as Monster Hunter Stories is concerned, I want to like it so bad because once again, that there's something about that art style that Tales of Arise has that is it what Visions of Mana, sorry. What Monster Hunter Stories has, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which my wife, her dead eyes as she looks at me.
Her dead
talking
eyes
about it,
fucking hate you.
like there's something about that art style that just like scratches an itch in my brain that I didn't even know was there. But I tried the demo for Stories 2 about a month or so ago, and like I just did not vibe with the combat at all.
Right.
But like the everything else about it was pleasant, but just the combat.
1 and
was like,
2
I can't.
1 and 2 are currently out right now on PlayStation PlayStation catalog, I believe. So you can play them if you have PlayStation catalog, or I guess just PlayStation Plus at this point. I don't fucking know. They're changing too often for me to remember.
I don't think Sony knows at this point.
Stories 3 just came out.
Guess.
So that one's
Finally,
in.
an
Fringe Tip.
opportunity to dive into a fucking world nobody cares about.
Oh no! What are we talking about, Jake? Are you going to talk about Ni no
Monster
Kuni?
Hunter.
Why?
No, Monster Hunter
I'm not
Stories is
diving
like
in.
it's like an RPG. Fucking yeah,
Right.
it's a tough sell.
I do want to point out, Fringe Tip Design points out another one that we missed on the Monster Collection part, and that is Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, which, by the way, it absolutely fucking stellar, still holds up so fucking well. One thing I'll say about Ni no Kuni, though, is, man, that difficulty curve in that first act is brutal. If you can make it through the first act of Ni no Kuni, you are in for one of the greatest games of all time. But that difficulty curve is so fucking tough. You may.
Sorry. I was say, if I may, I just happened to play the second game first. I was like, oh, this looks cool, whatever.
Interesting.
Loved it. That's another one of my very few platinums is Ni no Kuni 2. After that, and try to play the first game afterward, and yeah, that difficulty is insane. Like the combat system is a lot to get used to. I never made it too far. I wanted to.
It's
I really
healing,
wanted
yeah.
to make it further than I did.
Until you can start catching, because you can't catch the monsters in Ni no Kuni until you're well into like deep in Act 1. You have to get your second party member before you even get the ability, and it's still not a given that you'll be able to catch anything. And
geez.
so
Yeah,
it's
I made
so
it to-
tough there. Yeah.
I made it
It's-
to the desert, which I think is when you get the second party member. I don't know.
Right, yes, in the deserts where you pick her up. Fucking great game. I want to move on to the next one, though, because we're going to get really meaty here in a minute, and I'll try to make this quick on the next two, because the last one is going to be tough. So next up is going to be Social Sim School Life. Now, this combines dungeon crawling with dating sim social mechanics exemplified by the Persona series and Metaphor Refantasio. I stand by the fact that Persona 4 Golden on the Vita is like the peak of how to play the Persona series. Some might say, well, Persona 5 Royal, fantastic, whatever, fuck off. Metaphor Refantasio absolutely reconfigured the game. The mechanic of being able to run up and just beat level enemies to be able to like level grind faster was so inspired, and the fact that they took that on with Dragon Quest VII I was so fucking thankful for that. And I do believe that Metaphor, because I also put 130 hours in to get the platinum for that. Metaphor Refantasio, hands down, it is the best of the Shin Megami Tensei Persona world, which they all kind of vibe in. I stand by this. Metaphor is the best. Hands down, is the best. Any opinions on these? Do you guys play Persona? Metaphor, Shin Megami Tensei, anything?
I false started Persona 5 twice. I got like 8 hours into Persona 5. I got probably 20 hours into Persona 5 Royal, 4 hours into Persona 3, and maybe 6 hours into Persona 4 Golden when it hit Steam a couple years ago. And something doesn't click with me with those games. I'm not really sure what it is. I think I just prefer a more traditional experience. It's a little too over the top for me. And I did find myself, we can circle back a little bit to Fire Emblem Three Houses introduced a lot of that. They had the calendar and the schedule and the kind of time management elements that they grabbed from Persona, which did work for me in the Fire Emblem world, because I think, again, it was a little bit more grounded in that like standard fantasy and not the the crazy kind of more out there fantasy that you see in the Atlas series. But yeah, I don't know, something about these doesn't hit for me perfectly. Persona fans can't tell you much about the real world, but they can tell you which high schooler has the best feet. That's for sure.
That's true. That's true. We definitely can. What if I told you, Jake, that I can sell you on something? Give yourself something that you can try to push yourself for. And that is, as of this recording, the Guinness Book World Record holder for the longest JRPG game title is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Raidu Kazuna Hoa vs. the Soulless Army. Do you think that you can do a stream of that? Can we get you to do a stream of that and just repeat the name?
I'll get like an hour and a half stream of that just to get it on the book so I can say that name a few times and build it up for like a month too. So every time I'm like, guys, don't worry, we're getting to it soon. And like maybe in 3 weeks we're gonna play, and then I'll rattle off the name. I was gonna say earlier when we were talking about Dragon Quest, one of my favorite subtitles ever. We brought up one of the subtitles and it was like absolutely insane. But Dragon Quest Heroes, the world trees woe in the blight below, always fucking cracks me up.
So fucking good, man. Sounds like a fucking Dr. Seuss book.
And
Jesus.
or like an alt rock album.
I want to prog rock especially. I want to throw one more fun fact out there about Shin Megami Tensei, and I'll shut the fuck up. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne Maniacs it's like a director's cut of Shin Megami Tensei 3, where you can actually recruit Dante from Devil May Cry to join your party.
Devil May Cry.
Featuring Dante from Devil May Cry. So just something fun to think about there. That is definitely something you can do. Moving on now to one that I don't care about, and I don't know if many people here do. It's lost on me, is the MMO JRPG, so massively multiplayer online games with JRPG elements. This would be Final Fantasy XIV, Dragon Quest X, and there's plenty of Star Ocean. There's like 2 or 3 of them. Are you guys, are either one of you MMO JRPG people? I'm not.
Kamen, I'm going to let you play our second game of the night after our Tifa one. It's also Final Fantasy related. No stickers. Okay. Kamen, I need you to guess how many hours I have put into Final Fantasy XIV online. I have my Steam playtime in front of me here. It could be none. It could be very low. I don't know. I'm just asking you.
I feel like for you, it's either 3 or 750.
Right. You got to guess though.
I'm going 750. I think you're real sicko.
More. Go ahead.
No fucking way. No fucking way.
1,062.
Okay.
More. Go ahead and continue.
No, 1378.
No, let me skip ahead. It starts with a 3.
No.
Yeah.
You've put 3,000 hours into this game.
Well, technically, I put 3,436.2 hours into Final Fantasy XIV. But I do maintain...
Does your ass have, like, sores on it?
No. It's great. It's a great ass. In fact, many agree. However, I will maintain that a lot of that time was like second screen experience where I would like work 9 hours a day during like COVID and then have that up and have my little minions doing missions and shit like that for me. Okay. But there's a lot of active playtime there too over the course of a decade or so.
That's fucking insane, dude. I feel sick. It is after that reveal, that grand reveal, let me platform Final Fantasy XIV a little bit. Although I'm not entirely happy with where it is right now. They kind of had like the culmination of a saga a couple of years ago that ended very, very strong. And they've started sort of like a new, Endwalker. And they've started a new chapter, which to me, stakes are much lower, and it doesn't hit exactly the same at this point. But Final Fantasy XIV does what World of Warcraft could never do for me, and that's to make me care about the story that I'm progressing as if it was a single player RPG. Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO
Or I was gonna say it's an MMO wearing the disguise of a single player RPG. It's like a single player RPG wearing the disguise of an MMO. It is entirely possible to play through that entire game with like very, very minimal human interaction. You could just get like CPU party members to run your dungeons with you, and you could just enjoy the story that is mostly like geopolitical conflict for the start, and then, you know, fighting gods as we go on in different multiverses and whatnot.
So
it is
a fun Game of
believable.
Thrones is what I'm hearing.
Yes, precisely.
Good.
It is unfucking believable. Some of the best moments, some of the best characters, one of the best RPG parties in all of Final Fantasy, in all of video games. It is a very, very impressive game. Namely, I think the final 2 expansions, Shadowbringers and Endwalker, are just like, even if you called those standalone games, would have to be in like my top 25, top 50 games of all time.
One of my
I'm gonna
one of my 1,000 or so Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy cards I've accumulated over the past couple of months is one of those like Through the Ages cards or whatever, and it's Endwalker. If I could easily track it, I would just go snag it, but it's buried somewhere. But very cool design. Very cool.
I love that. I'm going to pause here for a second. I want to bring in some submissions from the audience because we've got a lot of audience feedback of the certain things. So just going to we're going to burn through some of these. And then we'll finish off with the last subgenre of JRPGs before we move on to our final segment of the night. I'm going to start with Kayla. Kayla, she says, my first JRPG I ever tried was Persona 5, and it was very intimidating to jump into as a baby gamer. Since then, I've played many more types of games and just had more experience with mechanics, etc. I would like to revisit Persona with the skills I have now. As far as the only and my favorite JRPG I've completed, it has to be Sea of Stars. There you go, Cog. By a mile, which has landed into my top 10 of all time for its story, engaging combat, and so much more. I plan to finally take on my first Final Fantasy game at some point this year, as the long wishes of many of you guys. I'm gonna also want to bring in Coal Mines. I mean, he was kind of having a meltdown in the chat earlier, so I'm gonna skip the part where he hates everything. Man, he just hates JRPGs. He shits on Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy X and Persona. Man, he just is mad. But he does like Trails in the Sky First Chapter Remake is absolutely my favorite. Non-Expedition 33, we'll talk about it in a second. JRPG of late. The story is very surprisingly good with an absolute twist ending. Moving up, we'll talk Gianni DeCrosta brings in some interesting ones as well. JRPGs shaped my earliest concepts of what storytelling and character development could be in games. Like most kids of the 90s, the explosion of Final Fantasy VII during the PS1 era brought me to the genre. Games like Xenogears, Legend of Dragoon, Legend of Legaia, Guardians and Crusade, and Vandal Hearts became comfort food and my favorite worlds to escape to. Of course, can't wax poetic about JRPGs without mentioning one of my personal favorites, Final Fantasy X. An incredible build crafting system, the CTB combat structure, one of my favorite video game love stories of all time, mind-blowing plot twist. Then last, we'll talk about Sears Shard says, I believe the only JRPG I've ever finished is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Has some pacing issues, but every character is so charming that it makes more than makes up for it. Classic JRPGs haven't succeeded in getting their hooks into me, unfortunately, but that may also be my hesitation due to the 100+ hour games almost ruining my life. Which do I say? Just go play Dragon Quest XI. We haven't talked about Xenoblade Chronicles at all, Jake.
Bro. Oh my god. I love that so much. I was hoping we'd have an opportunity. I thought about that when we were talking about action RPGs, but they kind of like, there's like a weird line between them, and they're not quite turn-based and they're not quite action either, but they are super, super unique and absolutely incredible. And I have a truthfully shoddy history with them because the Xeno series is a bunch of nightmare things to follow where they're all kind of connected, but like Xenogears was published by Squaresoft, and then the creators kind of left and they got picked up by Bandai Namco, or at that point I think it was just Namco, and they put out the Xenosaga series on the PS2, which again, spiritual successor. There are common threads, and if you really look into the lore, everything is kind of coming under one umbrella. Same thing happens there where they leave Xenosaga behind and then they make to greener pastures in the form of Nintendo, and they create the Xenoblade series, which spans from the Wii all the way up to Nintendo Switch, and we just got a Switch 2 edition of Xenoblade Chronicles X. But I struggled to get into Xenogears, struggled to get into Xenosaga. Xenoblade I was in and out on. One I got maybe like 40 hours into, but it was a little too beefy for me. Two was super anime, and at that point in my life for like anime ass games, it was like early Switch days. I wasn't feeling it. And I ended up at just the exact right time in my life to experience Xenoblade Chronicles 3, where I was like, I just need a game to sink time into right now while I am stuck away from home. And I adore this game so much. One of the most fantastic and most traditional RPG stories wrapped around one of the most unique RPG battle and party systems that I have ever seen. I urge everybody that's listening to this to, if there is a chance, a fucking tiny chance that you would be interested in Xenoblade at all, just go and watch the Nintendo Direct that focused exclusively on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's like 15 minutes long. It was one of those special presentations. You know how they do like a single game Nintendo Direct?
Yeah.
And I watched that in its entirety, and it made me go from I'm not interested in this game, because it was like the announcement at one of the regular Nintendo Directs. That was like their big final thing, and I was like, man, fuck this Xenoblade. I'm not into this. This is my good. I wasn't happy. It was a high guard like situation, but I watched that individual Nintendo Direct, and they do such a great job of selling the game and marketing the game specifically by giving you a little bit of the characters, a little bit of the systems, a little bit of the story, but not too much as to spoil. Just enough to get you fucking hooked in. It is such a great way to gauge your interest, to see if this makes sense for you, because it explains this very unique system of how you acquire and change classes in your party, which if I tried to sit here and explain to you, I wouldn't be able to do. But just believe me when I say it's very cool.
I love that. I would just briefly want to say, if you have a Switch 2, Xenoblade X, also Bravely Default Flying Fairy. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I have to say that on the 3DS, Bravely Default was one of my favorite JRPGs. It's on the Switch 2 now. So, and I think Cog, you maybe did a review for us. Is that right? At some point, did you? Maybe
No, it was that. No, it's no.
You did. No, I'm lying. Okay, good. Moving on. Cog, you are ready. I'm excited. You haven't talked much recently because you've been preparing for this moment your whole life, actually. The last subgenre of JRPGs is that's not actually a JRPG, right? This is games that take multiple aspects of the genre and blend them together to make something unique. These are genre-breaking games. These would include games such as Parasite Eve, The World Ends With You. One of my personal favorite weird fucking games, once I did shrooms, I couldn't play this game again. Fear and Hunger, I don't want to talk about it. But if you don't know what Fear and Hunger is, you should go look up fucking Fear and Hunger. Okay. And then lastly, Expedition 33 Clair Obscur.
No. Why? I've been freaking out about this game for the last week.
I know. I've been saving this whole time for you. Cog, tell me why in you get 3 sentences to do this, or we'll be here all night. Tell me in 3 sentences why Expedition 33 is a JRPG. 3 sentences.
It follows the same structure that we kind of outlined earlier. I guess that's 1 sentence, whatever. So you have your party members, you got the experience points, you have the skill tree, you have the emotional heart of the story mixed with larger than life stakes, end of the world type of stuff going on. They just mix it in with cultural elements that come from outside Japan. Obviously, it comes from France. And they blend it together to make a JRPG inspired that it wears on its sleeve into something that, like you said, is a little bit different, not quite full JRPG, but very much like in the same wheelhouse and in the same conversation.
Jake, tell me why it's not.
It's not made in Japan.
So you're saying
you're forgetting 25%, maybe the most important defining factor of the 25% of the fucking J in JRPG. It's a role-playing game made somewhere that's not Japan. You can't fucking.
So you're saying the qualifying factor here to be a JRPG is you have to be Japanese. This feels exclusionary.
I didn't make the fucking genre.
It's an interesting, I like having this conversation though, because it does bring up a very interesting point that of the things that make, now, yes, we can say JRPG is just specifically just games made in Japan, but there are games like Sea of Stars that like, I would argue against that, right? That like, there's a vibe to it. It's like the whole thing of I know it when I see it. There's a vibe to it that is so hard to nail down. This is why I think that JRPGs is it is my favorite genre of game. However, it is the hardest genre of game for me to try to sell to someone because I can never figure out how to explain it. I couldn't tell you what it is. I just have to tell you to trust me.
Maybe we just make an exception for studios that are smaller than a AAA studio who are from a French-speaking country and who incorporate active elements into their turn-based combat systems, because that covers Sea of Stars and Expedition 33. Those are the exception to the Japanese rule.
No.
I just love pointing out that weird similarity.
Someone's pulling this down just to post this so that we can get people really mad in the comments to scream at us about whether it is or isn't. And I hate
someone is us tomorrow so we can get some clicks. What are you talking about?
In supporting the devil's advocate here, like High Score Weekly is making great points right now. Whereas like Japanese restaurants near me have non-Japanese cooks, but they're still Japanese restaurants. And to a point, I'd agree. But to me, it's a little bit like Panda Express is Chinese cuisine. But when I say I want Chinese food, I don't want Panda Express. You know what I mean? Like, is maybe the best way that I could sort of explain that. It's the same way as like if I want Italian food, I don't want a meatball sub from fucking Subway. You know what I mean? Like I want something that is authentically Italian, I suppose, when I'm saying that. If I wanted a meatball sub, I'd ask for a meatball sub. I mean, maybe...
So what I'm hearing is, it's subjective.
Oh no, man.
I don't know, man. One might say that when you use Panda Express, I would say General Tso's is an American dish anyway. I digress. I think that this is the perfect time to stop here, though. And I want to ask the question to the two for all of us.
just rile them up and then stop.
That's it. We hit a point where I realized that this was going to go too far and too long. Someone was going to cry, probably me. I don't want to do that tonight. I've already cried enough today. I want to ask you guys, everything we've talked about so far, what is your favorite subgenre of the JRPG?
I lean toward. So again, we're gonna, for the sake of Jake's sanity, we're gonna exclude games that were not made in Japan. I lean toward the action-focused combat. I do like a turn-based. I really do. But these days, for whatever, I just gravitate a lot more toward the action-focused ones. So your Tales of Arise, your Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, your Final Fantasy 16, all of those which have very nicely overlapping combat systems of like, kind of mixing in your couple of different attacks with like your melee weapon, with your elementals, with your, special attacks and all that. That also does the same, just like scratching that itch in my brain, dude. Those are the ones that I get to a lot. And then also, I mean, my Final Fantasy 7 journey only really truly started in January of this year when Remake came to Switch 2, because I, again, did have a PS1. I did buy the ported version of 7 OG on the PS3 or whenever it was that they brought that to the PlayStation Store. Didn't get too far. I got out of Midgar, which is, apparently it took 40 hours to get out of that, and in the Switch 2 version, but only about 5 hours in the original. But of course, that again has mostly action-focused combat with you're able to like slow down time to pick your special attacks and all that stuff. But those are kind of my favorites these days. But I still do play. I'm still also playing Octopath Traveler 0 with the turn-based combat. So maybe it's that I like something that's mixing things together, because even with Octopath, it's turn-based, but they have that element of like being able to break the shields or boost your party members to where they're doing either double the attacks or they're making their attacks stronger. Like I like something that's adding something to what's already like at its base is a traditional combat system, but they're like just throwing some zhuzh on it, throwing a little something spicy.
Yeah, for me, I think for a long time my answer was turn-based RPG, and then for a long time my answer was action RPG. And I think it circled back as I got a little frustrated with some action RPGs being a little too much action and not enough RPG, in like an overcorrection kind of way. I was like, well, I want something that's like completely traditional, and that's where I became like a very big fan of Dragon Quest 11 and those games that follow that kind of thing. But it's something that we haven't really talked about is some of those like genre, well, I guess subgenre bending ones. And to me, at this point in my life, my favorite RPG system of all time is a fucking hybrid turn-based active time battle system from Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. I think that is the perfect blending of two worlds. I think if you have to choose a subgenre to put it is an action RPG over a turn-based RPG, but the way that it has added those like time-based bars to a homage, I guess, to the original Final Fantasy VII, but make it its own thing is absolutely perfect, especially when you add that with like the existing materia system, which hasn't really been adjusted at all. Like that is pretty much intact from its initial form. There's just new pieces that you can put in there. I think it's just the perfect amalgamation of both.
What do they call that? Like ATB, right? Like active time.
Yeah, active time battle system.
ATB.
Yeah.
I'm here with you on that. I feel you there. I think I struggle. I think for the longest time I probably would have said the social sim school life, just because of how deep love I have for Persona. And then I think for the long time too, I would have been icing on the cake to that is because of Metaphor and just like my connection with like the moment in my life where my life gets weird for me. I stop being able to walk, right? I'm struggling. I have to wear sunglasses now. You know, there's this moment in life where things get fucking weird for me. And Metaphor was there. And that I was locked into it. And that was like the one thing that kept me fucking sane. And I laugh about the fact that I always say that during that, and we really haven't talked a lot, I think, on air about this. But like, my love for turn-based games specifically grew in that moment because of my limitations that I had found myself in, and being able to slow things down to be at a speed that I wanted, but still being able to enjoy the things I enjoyed the most. And I feel like it's interesting as humans, we do that where we try to find ways to cope with the problems that we have or the things that are going on, and we adjust. That's the one thing that we can do that I don't think other species have the ability to, and that's adjusting to things. And I think because of that, my love of turn-based games have just grown exponentially. And so I fall back on things like Dragon Quest, things like early Final Fantasy games. I always stand by, still love I Am Setsuna, still like Bravely Default, those types of games. So I think for me, turn-based is where I'm at, but man, I do love a good moment where I get to get a cutie on a date, and we get feet. We get a lot of feet pics. Guys, I appreciate that. And what I'm going to say now is that we've covered the origins, the defining characteristics, and our own personal history of the genre, but the future is arguably stronger than it's ever been before. The return of the Japanese studio's dominance is only becoming more evident, and while we won't necessarily pontificate on the reasoning, cough, cough, end stage American capitalism, I do want to see where each of you stand on upcoming titles. Will we ever see Dragon Quest 12? And will Final Fantasy VII Unknown Subtitle be announced this year? I want to know where you guys are at. What you're most excited about for the future of the genre, where it's going, and titles, what are you looking for? What are you excited about that's already been announced? Like, I just want to know where you're at in the next 5 years. What do you see of the genre? What are you most excited about from it?
I'll start with I think my known quantities that I won't dwell on here because I feel like you guys have heard me talk to them about them at length is like Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 is a given. Kingdom Hearts 4 is a given. We know these games are both on their way. They've been previously announced that are awaiting their re-reveal. There's things like Dragon Quest 12 that we've talked about that I think I'm giving kind of a pass right now on how long it's been since the announcement because their art director died halfway through development of the game. I'm assuming they had to make some pivots and are going to have to, make some changes here. Xenoblade Chronicles 4, anything that is a sequel to something that I'm very excited for, is exciting. I have kind of two more off the wall ones that I'll bring up that I think will be curveballs for you guys at the very least is
Okay.
I feel like in the next 5 years, it's prime time for Chrono Break. I think that with Square Enix and they're righting their wrongs of yesteryear that they've been kind of pivoting towards, where they stopped crunching out so many random ass games. We don't have Harvestella dropping a month after, who knows what. We
But
might
Jake, what
see them
about
go
Various
back.
Day Life 2?
Various Day Life. That's right. That's another great fucking pull. I think we should see a return to that series. I have long theorized that Chrono Trigger will probably get an HD 2D remake, and that will open the door for Chrono Break. So I expect a Chrono Trigger remake in the next 2 years, and probably Chrono Break in the next 5 or 6. The other one is, you expect me to say Kingdom Hearts, you expect me to say Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, but I am truthfully very excited for Final Fantasy 17, which isn't something that's often talked about, and they always have different teams internally working on Final Fantasy, to the point of it's a very weird trajectory. Final Fantasy 15 was headed up by the team that went on to make Forspoken, and Final Fantasy 16 was made by the team that's back at work on Final Fantasy 14 expansions. So Final Fantasy 17 is being developed actively, we can assume, by question mark, and I'm excited to see what direction they go. And I think what'll be cool about that is when it's initially revealed to us, it'll be revelatory in that we won't know. I hope we don't know that it's coming. I hope that they don't say, and get ready for the reveal of Final Fantasy 17. I hope that it is side fucking jammed into a Game Awards, and we see this trailer for this thing that looks fucking cool, and we're like, what the fuck is this? What is this? And then at the end, you get those little hints. You see a crystal, or maybe in the background, somebody spotted a fucking chocobo or something like that, and you start to piece together through that Final Fantasy 17 trailer that we're finally getting a new numerical, it's crazy to call it, but like new IP is what it feels like when you see the first images or video of a Final Fantasy universe for the first time. I am anxiously awaiting the reveal of Final Fantasy 17.
All right, Cog, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, was it Coal Mines that mentioned? Yeah, it was Coal Mines that mentioned the Trails in the Sky Tits, part 1 being so good. And I'm like 8 hours into that myself, really, really enjoying it. Just obviously a lot of games coming out, so I haven't gotten back to it quite yet. But part 2 is going to be coming out. Is it this year or next year? So I definitely want to get caught up. Of course, whenever remake, I can't decide if I'm going to get Rebirth on Steam or on Switch, or wait for the Switch 2. But either way, I'm going to be playing that. And Tales of, they've got to be cooking something. Because they keep dropping these remake. They've dropped the DLC that was for Arise, and they've dropped some of these remasters. But looking forward to replaying that for Switch 2, because I just am a sucker and I want to spend money, I guess. But yeah, Jake, that was a good pull for Final Fantasy 17, because I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah,
I'm also excited to see what. Surely Sabotage is probably working on something else at the moment. The people that did Sea of Stars, the DLC that came out last year was really interesting, really cool. Not my favorite of the year by any means, but I still really like how they kind of approach these older games and these retro styles. We kind of put their own more modern spins on it. JRPG spins on an RPG here coming out of Quebec. So if the next one is another RPG in some sort of style, I'd be really interested to see that. Same with, oh God, what was it? Yeah, if Sandfall takes another swing at an RPG, whether that's turn-based style, JRPG style, or something different, but yeah, definitely wanted to see what Dragon Quest 12 has in store, because really liked what I need to pick up 11 again. I really do. Or else I think the Kamen might actually murder me.
I will fuck your face. I'll fucking do it. I want to ask a question quickly. Do we think Final Fantasy 17 will be a standalone story, or do we think Final Fantasy 17 will go back to the MMO JRPG launch padding off of 14?
Ooh, please be standalone for me.
I think standalone.
Standalone?
I think Square Enix is positioning themselves exclusively for wins. Is like,
Okay.
I forget the exact news that broke. It was like 2 years ago now, but it was on the heels of things like Harvestella and Various Day Life. I know we joke about it, but there was a point where like Square Enix was putting out like a fucking B tier RPG every month, and like they would probably make a couple $100,000, but I can't imagine they were raking in millions off of these things after like marketing costs and whatnot. And there were issues with like shareholders and how things were going from like an executive standpoint, and they announced like a strategic realignment of them doubling down on the franchises that work for them and starting to move away from these like smaller projects. And that's not to say that there aren't any, because there still are plenty of releases from Square Enix every year. But I think they want their biggest franchises to have big fucking hits right now. So they're going for sure things. And I think that they have had the last time they launched an MMORPG, it went fucking horribly. If you ever get the chance to watch the No Clip documentary about Final Fantasy 14, it's like 4 episodes, maybe it's 3 hours long. It is one of the most fascinating stories in all of video games about how that game came out, and like the Final Fantasy 14 that we play right now is Final Fantasy 14 A Realm Reborn, because the original Final Fantasy 14 was such a fucking mess and such a failure that they had to rebuild and re-release that game while still supporting the original version of it before killing it off and putting this new one out. And it is nothing short of a miracle that it got to where it was. So I think that they are scared. I think them ditching these smaller titles and these like commercial failures is an indicator of them trying to take big swings for like hits. And I think a nice traditional Final Fantasy 17, as much as I hate to admit it, especially on the heels of the success of Expedition 33, we're going to see a traditional turn-based Final Fantasy. We lost Cog's video, but we're still good.
Oh, are we sure? He's back. Oh, no, maybe he's gone. Cog, say something.
I'm here. Are you here?
Oh, there he is. Wow, that's all it took was for you to say that to come back to life. All right, so where am I? I can't believe that it's been an hour and almost 40 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes for us to get to the point in the conversation where I bring up Like a Dragon, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, to where all of this to say, I'm so fucking stoked for Like a Dragon 9. Ichiban Kasuga is just the fucking greatest, man. I want to be best friends with him. He's just so fucking awesome of a character. And I think that any continuation of his story, I'm so fucking down for. It's not technically, I wouldn't consider it to be a JRPG. We may consider it in this vein to potentially say like, okay, well, could be an ARPG with pirate Yakuza. But just having like his cameo at the very end of the game, sorry, spoilers for that. His cameo at the very end of the game is so fucking funny. It's like an Easter egg at the very end.
Kamen has spoiled no less than a dozen games.
Not in the game. It's not in the game. Also, none of you fucking people are gonna go play that game, so fuck off. But I would say Like a Dragon 9 is what I'm the most excited for. But I definitely feel like there's going to be a moment, I feel it deep in my loins. There's going to be a moment where we have here soon where an existing IP is going to have a game that shocks everyone. And I really feel like it could be something like Star Ocean, where like they just drop an absolute fucking banger of a game, kind of similar to how like Tales did with Tales of Arise, where like, yes, we all love Tales, but the love for Tales, I don't think the level of fanfare and acclaim that Tales of Arise had was unique. And I think that like Star Ocean has a potential chance we may see something weird there. I do think, like I said, in Infinite or Like a Dragon, I'm excited for that. Final Fantasy 17, obviously it'd be just absolutely stupid not to say Dragon Quest 12. But then I do think that there's going to be a situation as well where we have a game that comes from Capcom or Square that is just a brand new IP that none of us have heard of. And we have this like absolutely blowout RPG that we're all like, what the fuck? But then again, I would be remiss to say that every game, and I know this will bring me hate, every iteration of Pokemon has gotten better. And I know people are out there say Kamen, that's bull Kamen. It's just a lie. Mechanically, it's not that good. We are inching closer into a world in which I'm finally going to get the Pokemon game that I dreamed of when I was 8 years old. Now, is that Wind and Waves? I don't think so, but I do think we're getting really fucking close. we're onto something. And I do think that whatever Game Freak's working, what's that game that Game Freak's working on right now? That's not Pokemon. Looks
so
cool.
much
Shit.
dodge
Reincarnation.
Yeah, whatever both of you just said at the exact same time. That game sounds so fucking cool. So yeah, I say this as like, I stand by this. We're positioned right now in the best possible place that we can be for this particular genre. I feel like the mainstream audience is becoming more welcoming of these types of games, and because of that, I feel like we're getting more put into this genre growing, and I love that. And I know that to some degree that we want to be exclusionary because like this is it, but like I love it. I'm excited for it, and I think that there's a future in which we're cooking.
Yeah.
And I feel like I might be dying on the vine right now, aren't I?
No, you're doing fine.
I can still hear you,
Oh god.
at least.
Okay, cool. Well, something's going on with my stuff. I'm pixelating up. Guys, is there anything that you guys have that we haven't brought up that you want to cover?
What do you think that Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 is going to be called?
It's going to be called Final Fantasy VII Part 3. It's just minigames.
Oh,
Oops, all
mini
minigames.
Oops, all minigames.
Would be good.
Retribution would be cool, but it probably won't be.
Reunion, return.
Rebuttal.
All right. Well, I'm tired, guys. I'm so tired that my system's apparently crashing in real time, which I think is a good reason for us to outro. Thank you for everyone who joined in with us today to talk about JRPGs. I can guarantee you that we didn't mention one that is your favorite. So why don't you go to wherever you're watching this and then bitch at me for not talking about the one that you love so much. You can find all of our drop in drop out content at dropindropout.com. I think that's the right website.
Dropinddropoutpod.com.
Fuck, I do it every time. dropindropoutpod.com. You can go and follow us on Discord as well. We have fun things happening in Discord in real time. Very exciting place. It's just growing exponentially, and the community that you want to be part of. Cog, do you want pitch your shit?
Wow. Yeah, I have some, my video essays over on Cognitive Clips. You can go to dropinddropoutpod.com to find that, or just youtube.com/@cognitiveclips. Had a recent
Jake.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, Cog, I cut you off. You paused too long. You paused for too long.
I did. I was taken aback by Cog picture shit. But no, we had a Planet of Lana review essay that went up on the Drop and Drop Out Pod page on YouTube as well. So check it out.
You can check out my viral posts over in Drop In Drop Out Pod at Instagram.com or on TikTok.com or YouTube.com/@DropInDropOutPod because listen, we're cranking out hits. Perhaps Pokopia is of interest to you. Perhaps you'd like to see me guess body parts of video game characters. Either way, the internet has spoken and they want more of our short form content, and we're delivering it to you. But also you can find my shit at amazingstreamer.com.
I don't do anything anymore because I'm too tired all the time to do anything. But here's the thing, there's a game coming out that Patrick and I are going to be streaming here soon on the same exact channel called Retro Rewind, where you get to run your own 1990s VHS store. And well, if that doesn't scream dumpster bowl, then I don't know what else does. We're going to be streaming that. I'm going to force Jake to play Bulletstorm. Jake's going to force me to play Kingdom Hearts. And I am going to force you to go to bed because it's late now. And I'm tired and you're tired. And
I'm not positive it went through. I'll finish it for him. We appreciate you all watching. We'll wave at the screen until it's time to go. Goodbye.